Today, I will be presenting my City Development Strategy Memo for Singapore. In 1965, Singapore gained independence from the country Malaysia and became a sovereign nation. After gaining independence, it established itself as a representative democratic parliament. Today, the island is populated by an estimated 5.85 million people. With a booming economy, Singapore was ranked number 3 on Bloomberg's Innovation Index as of 2020. Having historically been one of the globe's largest trade centers, Singapore is extremely diverse racially, ethnically, and culturally. Being one of the most innovative cities in the world, Singapore has an extremely resilient economy and has proven to be the most resilient economy in Asia since 1997. The national gross domestic product, or GDP, in US dollars is $323.9 billion. The success of the nation's sovereignty is evident in its per capita GDP. While the per capita GDP was only $513 in 1950, it jumped to $57,714.30 in 2018 as government investments were proven successful. The top 3 exports from Singapore are electrical machinery, computer technology, and mineral fuels. Singapore is often referred to as a technology hub due to the number of companies present. Large corporation headquarters like LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, and many others have relocated to Singapore in order to take advantage of the collaborative creativity. There is a large population of highly skilled Singaporeans and a huge, steadily growing population of foreign-born, highly skilled workers. Government financial support is the sole reason for this success, as what were viewed as bold economic policies in the 1990s proved to be extremely successful in today's time. As successful as the Singaporean economy has been, the following factors make it vulnerable to inability to quickly adjust despite the evident resiliency. There is an extreme bias in the government's allocated budgeting. This has resulted in a wealth gap where the middle ground is disappearing. The investment into technology industries has created market saturation and stagnation, which long-term will have adverse effects on the economy. The cost of living is also extremely high, and neglected members of society experience homelessness at high rates. I propose the following memos to remedy the previously stated problems. The Singaporean government must increase constituent access, set higher qualifications for obtaining government technology grants, and invest more into public housing. Although Singapore is run by a representative democratic parliament, this would not appear to be the case. Given that the wealth gap in Singapore is quite substantial, there should be individual representatives for each district rather than one collective body that is supposed to represent each individual Singaporean citizen. Since the city-state makes a substantial amount of its GDP from technology innovation, that industry tends to be the focus of government budgeting. Industries that are not incorporating technological innovation into their practices are viewed as obsolete and often overlooked. However, services like retail, agriculture, and education are the foundation that technology needs in order to thrive. If these disenfranchised groups were better represented in Parliament, policy would reflect that and eventually lessen the wealth gap. Organizationally, it's easier to have one person from each party active in Parliament available to each district. For technology companies in Singapore, obtaining a government business grant is almost unbelievably easy. Even if a dozen individuals have the same idea for a tech startup business and apply for grants simultaneously, they will all be awarded. This is due to the fact that Singapore lacks natural resources and is only able to stay in global competition by keeping a competitive edge within the tech realm. However, this inevitably leads to market saturation as people with the same ideas are creating companies at the same time and are trying to cater to the same client base. In order to reverse this, the Singaporean government needs to implement higher standards when awarding grants rather than just freely giving them. This will also encourage collaborations across other industries, like agriculture, in order to distinguish an applicant from the next. These businesses also need to be sustainable in the long term so that they don't continuously need government capital in order to function. Due to skewed investment by the government into the technology industry, the wealth gap in Singapore is quite substantial and the middle class is quickly vanishing. The return on investment from technology-based companies allows for highly skilled workers to earn 3 to 4 times more annually. Since Singapore is also attracting many international technology companies, millions of highly skilled and highly paid workers visit or move to Singapore each year. The real estate market is catering to the higher income residents, meaning that it's become virtually impossible to find things that are affordable for those not making such salaries. The existing public housing is poorly built, extremely hard to qualify for, and overpopulated. Reallocating 500 million from the 2.5 billion spent yearly on technology investments is necessary, or the wealth gap will continue to increase past the point of repair. The Singaporean government owes it to the non-tech-based citizens to provide affordable housing, whether it be entire properties dedicated to public housing or vouchers to provide discounts on private market properties. These proposed memos put to action simultaneously will cause a huge shift on the socio-economic side of Singapore. There will be truly equal representation in government as the needs of all citizens would be taken into account. Innovation will occur in other industries with the incentive of diversifying and collaborating with non-technology industries. The wealth gap will also decrease and allow for a middle class, as those who qualify for public housing will not be expected to pay the same cost of living as those who make 3 to 4 times their income. These memos will help Singapore realign with its democratic principles, as capitalistic gain has overshadowed the needs of each individual.